Jen here with Sammy, my ever loyal sidekick. He is chewing on his Kong. We call it Chewy, and he's enjoying some peanut butter. So I apologize for any slobbering sounds. He's quite voracious when he wants to be. So I did a video on this topic probably about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years now. After I did a series of warnings that I totally believe and know came from God. And you might ask, well, why did you delete all your content? There was a variety of reasons for that, but the main reason was because God had made it understood to me that that time of warning had ended. We were in a season of exposure, which I had received a word on and did a video on that. And I have my journals that lay all this stuff out. And then God gave me a warning on gossip and exposing other people. We're supposed to expose the works of evil, but not necessarily the person, because a lot of things that are done are affiliated with the demonic, and as Christ said, they know not what they do all the time. Unless, you can bring somebody to justice and you have evidence, you should not use names. And so I try to abide by that. Do I always succeed? Of course not, I'm human, but I try. So after the series of warnings and God telling me that it was the season of exposure for like celebrities and our sins and all this type of stuff, there goes that ringing in the right ear. And after that was done, I did a video on this topic already. However, with this eclipse that's coming, with the fact that right now it feels like we are in the time of chastisement, which I will show you. I had no idea the time of chastisement was related to this prophecy, but God had told me it was a season of exposure, and that after that, we were in a time of judgment of the living. And so now, with this eclipse coming, we need to take another look at this. People need to understand. It does not appear that enough people in America have been repentant, and it does not appear that, as Mother Mary had requested, does not appear that Russia has been consecrated to the Catholic Church, that they are still, straying. Now that's her warning. I can't say that I know about that per se myself. So again, I have to go with what God gives me to bring, and that's what I do. So let me make sure comments are on. There we go. Hi, Katia. Happy Wednesday to you. I want to read this verse, and then while I give people a couple minutes to show up, if they show up, I want to tell you about something that happened to me yesterday. I don't know what kind of significance it has, but we are supposed to defeat Satan and his minions through the word of our testimony and the blood of the Lamb. So that's what I'm gonna give a little part of my testimony of something that happened yesterday. Is it a good thing? Not necessarily, but it lets me know that I'm on the right path, at least. So then a great crowd of people followed him, with women who were mourning and lamenting him. But Jesus turned to them and said, "Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep over me. Instead, weep over yourselves and over your children. For behold, the days will arrive in which they will say, Blessed are the barren and the wombs that have not borne and the breasts that have not nursed." That's very relevant to what we're going through right now. As I've said before, they've indoctrinated the youth. A lot of what is happening today is because of that. It is children against the parents. They literally were taught to hate their country and what it stood for. And I can understand that lament in regards to the military-industrial complex, but we have to understand this is not like an intangible item when you say a country. A country is full of innocent people. Now, most people here aren't innocent, right? We've all done something at some point in our lives, myself included, of course. So most of us are not innocent. I'm talking about those who do not fight in wars. Those who are under the age of accountability, which is about 7 or 8. Those who have not sinned themselves, which are babies, the youngest. And of course, those who have been aborted in the wombs, that is also a reason that we're going through all this. Now, this is a spiritual video. I am not a doctor or a medical professional. I'm not giving medical advice. Anything that I share on this video is per the Fair Use Act of 1976 for educational purposes. So let me tell you about something that happened yesterday. Give it a thumbs up, Katia. What's up? Let me show you something that happened yesterday. Or not show you, but tell you. So first I want to look at something, and you have to see what I'm talking about. It might help. It might help to... Okay, so this here is the St. Benedict medal, okay? One is the front and one is the back, okay? St. Benedict was at a dinner, and he had this medal on him, this cross that you see below, and let me see if I can show you guys what it says. And it's said to protect from witchcraft, from that type of evil, any spells associated with witchcraft, and also from poison, very specifically. As I've said, I've had a lot of issues with my dogs, and they've had a lot of things come across them health-wise and injury-wise. This is something that is common for people who are under spiritual demonic attack. Whether it comes from the spiritual or the material is kind of irrelevant. The cause and the reaction should be the same. Most TIs know what I'm talking about. And I believe that the TI phenomenon is totally rooted in the spiritual. I believe everything begins in the spiritual and then it manifests in the physical. The proof of that is children, right? You have a child, you cannot see that child, but it is in there, and it is created in the womb prior to it becoming material and then entering the world. So all things begin in the spiritual, and then they manifest in the physical. So this tells you a little bit about the history. Now, here's the thing. He was having a dinner, and he knew that it was poisoned. And so he said this thing, let me see if I can show you. In St. Benedict's left hand is his rule for monasteries that could well be summed up in the words of the prologue exhorting us to walk in God's ways. On the pedestal to the right is the poison cup, shattered when he made the sign of the cross over it. So he was having dinner, and that's what happened. On a pedestal to the left is a raven about to carry away a loaf of poisoned bread that a jealous enemy had sent to St. Benedict. So there we go, okay? I had ordered several of these. They come in like a package of 10 from a place that holds retreats. I don't know if you call it a Miriam house or a type of place. I don't have the pamphlet right with me right now, but I had ordered several for myself and my dogs. And I know that sounds weird, but they can't protect themselves from stuff. So I had put one on there with like a little keychain thing on their collars. But with Sammy's, it's a little bigger because he's a bigger dog. And so I attached it with like one of them mountain climbing clips that people use as like a keychain, right? And it's sturdy. Like, I made sure that it was sturdy, okay? And he usually wears a harness, and I clip the leash to the harness, so there's usually not anything even clipped to the collar. Yesterday, and I'm pretty aware, I pay a lot of attention to detail, especially now in these times after the last few years, everything I've been through. I just, you have to. You have to pay attention to what's going on around you and be aware of your surroundings. My spouse had taught me that years ago when things were good-ish, as good as they can be in this place. And I didn't realize it right away. So I think it could have happened a little bit before, but I don't think so. So I come back into my bedroom after, because it's like our sanctuary. There's no like death metal posters in here or any of that. And I have like a little statue of Mary, and I have a cross, and I have my Bible, I have my saint books and I have my little cartoons and stuff. So it's like it's my space. So I come in here, and I look on the floor, and I think it's a dime, so I pick it up, and it's my Saint Benedict medal. Now I'll say that I wear two. On the cross, you have it on the back of his cross, and you also just have this medal, and they come in like a thing of three, right? So and they're blessed. They're already blessed with an exorcism rite. And so ours are just silver though, they don't have the blue. And so I set it on my desk, and I looked down and I noticed that Sammy's is gone too. Now that's weird, okay? I could understand like mine breaking off, maybe falling off, that type of thing, something like that happening. But for both of them, for his to be totally gone, I looked around the house, and it's pretty easy to see. They're a little biggish. And I looked around, the place is pretty clean. I clean every day. I'm pretty neat. You have to be, especially when you're being attacked by the demonic and stuff. They like dirty little corners to hide in. They like filth. That's how they roll, so to speak. So Sammy's and mine mine had broken, and Sammy's was just totally gone. That's not normal. That's not a coincidence. That's not, and I don't care who tries to gaslight me about it. With everything else going on in this place and this time and in my life especially, that's not something that's normal. I take that as a spiritual attack completely. And I've been saying my rosary. I've been saying my Seven Sorrows rosary. I've been covering, at least the crown of my head. When I go out and when I'm in prayer, I do an infinity scarf veil type thing. So, and I've stopped eating animals. I don't consume the flesh or blood or any of that anymore. And I've been usually for like the last 5 years, 6, maybe 7 years, I only eat once a day, most days. Not all the time. There are days like any other girl, especially during a certain time of the month, where I might, pig out a little bit, be a little bit of a glutton. But, I've been becoming sanctified, like a lot of people, in this time especially. I know a lot of people are walking closer with God in that way. And so that's not normal. Like for both of our medals mine to break, for his to be missing completely, that's not normal. I'd also bought a rosary at the consignment shop from the same little vendor spot, whatever you want to call it, from the same person. I had got a rosary, an older one. Now, the spouse had ordered me one from Amazon, but remember, those ones aren't blessed or anything. And I had gotten this one, and it had a little holy water in it from Lourdes, and Lourdes is supposed to be healing water. I kept it under my pillow, and I woke up one day, I was cleaning everything up. This is when I still slept in the bedroom or living room when Sammy was small. And I couldn't find my rosary. I couldn't find it. And I had left it like sitting on the table after I cleaned up the room. And I look in the corner, and it's laying in the corner, broken in half. Again, this is not normal. Now you could say, well, somebody's messing with you, somebody's gaslighting you, they're manipulating your surroundings. Sure, possible. But for the metal around my neck to break, when I'm I pay a lot of attention to things like that. And it's my jewelry. Most girls, I have like a necklace with a sterling silver cross, right? And a sterling silver medal. But then I also have these blessed, exorcised ones that hang lower. They're not on an expensive chain or anything. And, there's a medal of Mary too. And so, I pay close attention to these things. So I just wanted to tell you all, for people saying, you don't know what you're talking about, you're crazy, all these types of things. And like Dave Chappelle said years ago, it's dismissive. You call somebody crazy and like, that's it. There's no real defense to that. And you could say, okay, that's fine for you to have your opinion. But I know I'm mentally stable. I know that, crazy people don't know that they're crazy. Okay, sure. I'm a woman. I know there's certain times that I'm a little, dramatic or whatever you want to call it, whatever word you want to use. And I'm a mother. Sometimes our emotions control us in that way, our love for people. We want to see people healthy and well and all this stuff. So I'm well aware, that I'm not perfect in all these things and that, I've experienced some trauma. So of course I have scars from that. But these things are not things that I'm doing. These are physical, tangible objects that represent, God. And I wanted to tell you that because this means that I'm on the right path, that the things that I'm doing are proper and appropriate, that being consecrated back to the Holy Catholic Church, and let's not get into men here. It has nothing to do with the Pope, has nothing to do with the bishops. I'm talking about the true Holy Catholic Church. And again, I've done my research, historically speaking, ecclesiastical history. That church came first. That Bible was compiled by that original church. Is it perfect? No. Is it, because any institution that man's in has the propensity to become corrupt because man is corrupt in his heart. Now, having said that, that's a little part of my testimony. I just wanted to bring that home. Now, this actually does follow scripture. This is actually in the Bible. They say it's a Catholic prophecy, but it is actually spoken of in the Bible as well. It talks about the sun not giving off its light and turning into sackcloth, okay? There are a lot of us who, again, have gotten warnings. And I did a video on this already, and I gave the warning. But we're getting closer here. We are now in the time of chastisement and judgment, which I will pull that up next. But this is basically what the 3 days of darkness is, and I will click on a couple things to show you what it entails, so you guys can do further research if you'd like. So the prophecy foretells 3 days and nights of an intense darkness over the whole earth, against which the only light will come from blessed beeswax candles. This is why I've said in past videos, get yourself some beeswax candles that are blessed. Have them blessed. There's a lady on Etsy. If you want the link, I can get it for you. She sent me a spiritual warfare kit. Now, they're not allowed to charge for items that are blessed. What they usually just charge for is shipping and handling and the actual making of the rosaries, because they are almost like a thick bracelet or a rope. They're weaved basically by hand. So that's where the price comes in, and the actual material to make the candles. You're not actually paying for, the blessing or that type of thing. So if you want information on how to get these items, I can also include that if you'd like in the description when we're done with the video. So, and during which all the enemies of the church will perish. The prophecy parallels the 10 plagues against Egypt in the book of Exodus. That's also key, because we're seeing this, and again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not giving medical advice. That's Sammy jingling because of his, I put another medal on him because I did have more, and so he has another one now. And what's funny, the other part of that, he has his dog tag, his license tag. It is on the same, it's not on the same key ring, okay, but it's on the same little mountain clip type thing. Hi, Sammy. Hi, baby. It's on the same mountain clip, and the the license is still there. Okay. There are moments when Sammy is alone in the kitchen, and he has a little spot with a blanket in there, and when my family members, love on him, and I'm very well aware of when people are faking to endear themselves to something. You have to understand how the diabolical work and how these narcissistic people, and that's where this comes from. When the narcissism takes hold of somebody, they don't want to seek God. They think they are the end all be all of their life. The pride is there, like I did this all on my own type thing. They don't pray ever. They don't seek God's guidance ever. They just don't do that. And that's where, this pride, just like Lucifer's fall, that pride attaches to a person. And it's a snowball effect. You have all these other things that could and do often take place. So we're seeing this pandemic right now with all these different variants, right, start to happen, which I also spoke of a couple of years ago when this all began for me. I talked about, lay down, Sammy, lay down. I talked about the plagues of Egypt before CV ever started. And in my righteous indignation and righteous anger, because it was a video about child harmers, I said they should all get struck with a with a plague. And lo and behold, so we're in a time right now where America is not, as a whole, collectively, is not where we need to be spiritually. And the whole world is like this. I mean, it's not just us, it's all over. So let's look at this. And there's something very specific. There's a link that I want to bring up. And again, I have the actual word that I brought about this in my journal. But for right now, I just want to show you what it is. And if you'd like to prepare, you can. But God always warns his children before he does a thing. And we can see that a lot of these prophecies have come to pass. Okay, so where is the one that I actually... Here, Sam, go. Throw him a treat. Which one was it? Hold, please. I want to bring up a decent site. I don't want to use like Reddit or any of that, right? I just don't feel like... I want to give you guys proper information, and Reddit's not that. See, that's products. See, you can get the blessed beeswax candles. Oh, fiddle dee dee. Sam. Oh, fiddle dee dee. Okay, so let's do this. There we go. I want to make sure I bring up the right link because some of these can get... Is this it? No. Sam, stop. Lay down and be nice. We'll go outside when it gets a little bit warmer. It's cold. Yeah, I'm going to take him outside, but it's cold. We went from like a couple of 75, 80-degree days back down to 30. It's cold here. Okay, I want to bring you guys to a proper... The one that I was looking at actually has... This prophecy originated with Saint Bridget, I believe. I won't quote on that right now. And I'm probably going to have... No, that's not it. I want to use a proper site. I apologize. It is what it is, though. Is this it? Yeah, this is it, I think. Is it? That's not it. There it is. The Holy See. This is a Vatican website, and I know how everybody feels about the Vatican, but this actually has the letter in here, so I'll include it in the description where you can read what she wrote. Now, during the message of Fatima, Saint Bernadette, it was the children. I'm sorry. I think I could get... There's a lot of private revelation to remember. And it says that Catholics don't have to adhere to private revelation. We don't have to believe it if we don't want to. However, a lot of this stuff has already come to pass. Now, there were 3 specific parts of this prophetic warning. And the last one was about Russia and communism, which, again, it's not just Russia. It's everybody at this point. You've got China living that way, South Korea living that way, North Korea. So there are a lot of people under oppression. It's not just one nation at this point. And that's what it is. I mean, it's totally oppression. I'm not going to read all this. I will include the link, but I will read the good bits that, maybe you'll want to know about. So throughout history, this was, as the second millennium gives way to the third, Pope John Paul II has decided to publish the text of the third part of the Secret of Fatima. The 20th century was one of the most crucial in human history, with its tragic and cruel events culminating in the assassination attempt on the sweet Christ on earth. Now a veil is drawn back on a series of events which make history and interpret it in depth in a spiritual perspective alien to present-day attitudes, often tainted with rationalism. Now we do use, obviously our rationale and logic first before you go to supernatural. The Catholic Church, a lot of the beginning doctors of the Catholic Church were scientists, legitimate scientists, right? Who did not the pseudoscience, the cult that we see today that is like scientism. It's not, it's real science. Science, I believe, is nature and God in action. That's when we see, the manifestation of God's workings. We might not see his hands, but his hands are behind, how nature works and natural law and all that. Throughout history, there have been supernatural apparitions and signs which go to the heart of human events and which, to the surprise of believers and non-believers alike, play their part in the unfolding of history. These manifestations can never contradict the content of faith and must therefore have their focus in the core of Christ's proclamation, the Father's love which leads men and women to conversion and bestows the grace required to abandon oneself to him with filial devotion. This too is the message of Fatima which, in its urgent call to conversion and penance, draws us to the heart of the gospel. Fatima is undoubtedly, now there are people, alleged Christians on YouTube, who say, the Catholic Church is this, that, and the other, and they have devices now that they could make it look like this is happening. And listen, I'm not even going to address those claims at this point. If people don't have the proper discernment as to what to listen to and what to avoid, I'm not here to bash anybody. I'm just saying we need to be using proper discernment. Yeah. So, Fatima is undoubtedly the most prophetic of modern apparitions. The first and second parts of the secret, which are here published in sequence so as to complete the documentation, refer especially to the frightening vision of hell, devotion to the Immaculate Heart of Mary, the Second World War, and finally the prediction of the immense damage that Russia would do to humanity by abandoning the Christian faith and embracing communist some of these words get me, and I'm a word person. Is that the right spelling? Totalitarianism. There we go, Jen. Sorry about that. And here's the thing, a lot of this has come to pass. And the third part of the prophecy was not pushed out by the church for a long time. And there is some, you can tell there's a little bit of, I don't want to say contention, but you can tell there's a little bit maybe of disagreement on how to handle this between Lucia and the Pope. Because I guess she wanted the secret exposed. He only brought out half of it. And if you ask me, there was a nun that they kind of coerced into, I think it might be Lucia. I don't remember if it was her or not. But they coerced this woman into taking a vow of silence. And so she had to keep this certain secret. And come to find out, after her vow of silence, she mysteriously died under very mysterious circumstances. And there are people that think the third secret had a lot to do with Freemasonry invading the church. Now, I can say for a fact there are a couple channels or priests that I kind of follow. Like I said, once your red flag goes off a few times, that's when you should just stop watching or listening to a person. We got to protect our eye gates and our ear gates, right? And I shouldn't have to prove that. I mean, there are certain things that we see or know that we wish, man, I wish I'd never looked at that, or I wish I'd never saw that. So it can degrade the human mind and spirit. There's a couple of priests that I watch, alleged priests. Again, we don't know for sure what these people are at this point. and they're filming themselves on a camera. That's all we see is this little bit they show us. But he's in an actual church, and he's a priest, and almost within every video he is flashing some either the triangle, or the other one that you do with both hands. It's infected everything at this point. And like I said, I believe that the Templars and maybe the Masons originated trying to be a godly, organization. I would like to think that, but of course I'm an optimist and I am an idealist. So I understand that the way I want things to be isn't always the way that they are, right? And I'm sure some of you can relate to that. Only one person. We're doing great. For the account of the first two parts of The Secret, which have already been published and are therefore known, we have chosen the text written by Sister Lucia in the third memoir of August 31st, 1941. Some annotations were added in the fourth memoir, December 8th, 1941. The third part of The Secret was written by order of His Excellency the Bishop of Leiria and the Most Holy Mother on the 3rd of January, 1944. There's only one manuscript, which is here reproduced photostatically. The sealed envelope was initially in the custody of the Bishop of Leiria to ensure better protection for the secret. The envelope was placed in the secret archives of the Holy Office on the 4th of April, 1957. The Bishop of Leiria informed Sister Lucia of this. According to the records of the archives, the commissary of the Holy Office, Father Pierre Paul Philippe, with the agreement of Cardinal, and it gets into all these names here. So the Pope, John the 13th, on August 17th, 1959, after some hesitation, His Holiness said, "We shall wait. I shall pray. I shall let you know what I decide." In fact, Pope John decided to return the sealed envelope to the Holy Office and not reveal the third part of the secret. Paul VI read the contents with the substitute Archbishop on March 27, 1965, and returned the envelope to the archives of the Holy Office, deciding not to publish the text. So you see how this goes on and on. They don't want to let this third part of the prophecy out for whatever reason, and that actually, from what I understand, goes against what Lucia had warned, that people needed to know about this. But when you're in the Catholic Church, especially when you're of the cloth, she ended up becoming a nun, obviously, after this vision overtook her and St. Bernadette and the other little boy when they were children. And so, yeah, I believe that's the prophecy that we're referring to. They had received it, and then they asked her years later to write it all down. She did write it down, and once they saw the third part, they did not want her to speak on it. So John Paul II, for his part, asked for the envelope containing the third part of the secret following the assassination attempt on May 13th, 1981. Cardinal Frano Epere, prefect of the congregation, gave two envelopes to the Archbishop, substitute of the Secretariat of State, one white envelope containing Sister Lucia's original text in Portuguese, the other orange with the Italian translation of the secret. On the following August 11th, Archbishop Martinez returned the two envelopes again. So they keep putting them back. They read the secret, see what it is, and they stuff it away. So personally, I do go with the myth or belief that the third secret has something to do with the church and Freemasonry invading the church. It's everywhere at this point. And now, are they down for communism? I honestly don't know how, I don't know them. I don't know how their theology works, but I believe they're for anything that, elevates them, so to speak. So, as is well known, Pope John Paul II immediately thought of consecrating the world to the Immaculate Heart of Mary, and he himself composed a prayer for what he called an act of entrustment, which was to be celebrated in the Basilica of Mary Major on June 7th, 1981. So here's the prayer. I'm not going to read that right now. You could probably pause it and get a screenshot if you want. Or I could copy and paste it into the description. And there we go. And it's a long prayer, right? It's about consecrating the world to Mother Mary and to the faith. Help us to live in the truth of the consecration of Christ for the entire human family of the modern world. Okay? From famine and war, deliver us. From nuclear war, incalculable self-destruction. From every kind of war, deliver us. From the sins against the life of man from its very beginning, deliver us. From hatred and from the demeaning of the dignity of children. Okay? That's big. You can almost tell what this secret has to do with here because he wrote this himself, okay? From every kind of injustice, both national and international, deliver us. From readiness to trample on the commandments of God, deliver us. From attempts to stifle human hearts, loss of awareness of good and evil. That's very prophetic right there, because we're dealing with that right now. Remember, he wrote this in 1981. From the loss of awareness of good and evil, deliver us. Because people don't know right now what they're doing. It seems a lot of people are lost to pleasure and to their own, own elevation, their own spirit, their own body. The body has become their idol. People are idolizing their own body. They are changing their bodies, and they're no longer in the image of God. So, I mean, that's big. If you watch TikTok, the things that young people are doing to their bodies is devastating. And people like Elliot/Ellen Page, what she's going through or has done to her body. People like that, they're leading the youth right into this, and they think that God actually put them in the wrong body, put their spirit or soul in the wrong body, as opposed to, hey, maybe we need to talk to somebody, maybe a spiritual counselor or leader, or maybe a psychiatrist, as opposed to that, they're doing these types of things. And psychiatry at this point is blatant witchcraft. And I know, because I've went to a quote unquote counselor by his own admission. But I've done a lot of studying into that. And, just like with the young girl who had to testify against her mom and didn't want to, they made her write her name down and crumple it up and throw it in a fire. Like, what kind of psychiatrist, first of all, has a just ready-made fire? Like, I don't know, man. It's all very bizarre. So then it goes on asking them to stop evil and this, that, and the other. It's a long prayer, but if you want to say it, I think we need all the help we can get at this point. Is anyone even still here? Thank you, Katia. Sister Lucia personally confirmed that this solemn and universal act of consecration corresponded to what Our Lady wished. So the letter's actually below. The Holy Father's letter, let's see. In the documentation presented here, 4 other texts have been added to the manuscripts of Sister Lucia. 1, the Holy Father's letter of April 19th, 2000 to Sister Lucia. 2, an account of the conversation that they had on April 27th. And 3, the statement which the Holy Father appointed Cardinal Angelo Sodano, Secretary of State, to read it on May 13th, 2000. And then the 4th, the theological commentary by Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger, prefect of the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. And again, secrets are no good. We should not be kept in the dark, pun not intended, about certain things that are happening. Sister Lucia had already given an indication for interpreting the third part of the secret in a letter to the Holy Father from May 1982. The third part of the secret refers to Our Lady's words. If not, Russia will spread her errors through the world, causing wars and persecutions of the Church. The good will be martyred. The Holy Father will have much to suffer. Various nations will be annihilated. The third part of the secret is a symbolic revelation referring to the part of the message, conditioned by whether we accept or not what the message itself asks of us. If my requests are heeded, Russia will be converted and there will be peace. If not, she will spread her errors throughout the world. Since we did not heed this appeal of the message, we see that it has been fulfilled. Russia has invaded the world with her errors, and if we have not yet seen the complete fulfillment of the final part of this prophecy, we are going towards it little by little with great strides. if we do not reject the path of sin, hatred, revenge, injustice, violation of the rights of the human person, immorality, and violence. Nonviolence is the way through this, okay? All this, you want to keep your guns type thing. Fear not that who can destroy the body, fear those who can destroy the soul. Oh, that one who can destroy the soul. Good morning, Michelle. Nice to have you as always. I hope you're well this morning. I hope it's a great day for you. It's been rather cold. We had summer for a few days, and now we've had winter for a few days, but it's supposed to get warmer today, so I'm hoping Samson and I can get out for a couple of walks. So here are the letter scripts. What is the secret? It seems to me that I can reveal it since I already have had permission from heaven to do so. God's representatives on earth have authorized me to do this several times and in various letters, one of which I believe is in your keeping. So this is Sister Lucia speaking. They were supposed to release this secret years ago, and they kept hiding it and hiding it and hiding it. And at this point, that part about Russia is the second part of the third part of the prophecy. They're still keeping, again, a lot of people think it has to do with the Masonic takeover. They're still keeping whatever the first part is, if it's that or not, they're still keeping it hidden, okay? And now it gets into it tells you what the first two are. The first part is the vision of hell. Our Lady showed us a great sea of fire which seemed to be under the earth. Plunged in this fire were demons and souls in human form, like transparent burning embers, all blackened or burnished browns, floating about in the conflagration now raised into the air by the flames that issued from within themselves together with great clouds of smoke, now falling back on every side like sparks in a huge fire without weight or equilibrium. And amid shrieks and groans of pain and despair which horrified us and made us tremble with fear, the demons could be distinguished by their terrifying and repulsive likeness to frightful and unknown animals, all black and transparent. This vision lasted but an instant. How can we ever be grateful enough to our kind Heavenly Mother, who has already prepared us by promising in the first apparition to take us to heaven? Otherwise, I think we would have died of fear and terror. We then looked up at Our Lady, who said to us kindly and so sadly, "You have seen hell where the souls of poor sinners go. To save them, God wishes to establish in the world devotion to my Immaculate Heart, Mary's Immaculate Heart. Again, I warn you, please refrain from just being a parrot and parroting what you hear other people say about the Catholic Church. About Mary specifically, she is the mother of the living God. She brought him into this world. We are supposed to honor both our mothers and our fathers, and I believe the fact that they're trying to oppress women at this point once again, and that they are, and I'm not a feminist, I'm talking about just basic human decency. I told you what I saw in a video yesterday on the Crowder channel, and you could see in the comments how sick it was, men saying, "Oh, dude, that's awesome, like Grand Theft Auto, he body slammed that chick." I'm pretty sure a big giant man could have subdued a skinny woman in a much better manner than body slamming her on the concrete. Because of this degradation of the human female spirit, I believe this is why we're seeing this unequal equilibrium as far as male and female goes, and about the youth changing their bodies. And most of them, if you do your due diligence, regret that type of surgery to change their bodies. I'm trying to be very gentle here. After they do this, they're no better. They don't feel any better. And now they have a host of health problems. And they do not live as long as other people because of the surgery itself. And we're dealing with literal mad scientists here who are not legitimate doctors, in my opinion and estimation of doctors that I've dealt with. I've been blessed to have a couple decent ones, I believe. It's heinous what's happening. So she's talking about hell, and you have seen hell to save them. God wishes to establish in the world devotion to my Immaculate Heart. If what I say to you is done, many souls will be saved and there will be peace. The war is going to end. But if people do not cease offending God, and that's key, if people do not cease offending God And I know most people don't want to hear this. People have shut their eyes and ears to the Spirit. They've shut their eyes and ears to sin. They don't want to hear it. Just like that, I'm sure you've all seen it now if you watch YouTube, the clip of the woman talking about, I don't want to hear about your Bible anymore. I don't care. I don't want to hear about it. So true. Thank you, Michelle, for the encouragement. These are not easy messages to bring. Like I said, I brought a warning about this myself 2 years ago that God gave me because we were in a season of exposure, a season of judgment, and after judgment comes chastisement. And that's what we're entering right now. That's why I deleted the content. That's the first main reason. And I had to test the Spirit and make sure it was God talking to me. And I'm like, well, you know what? He just called me back to the Catholic Church. I don't have anything on here about the Catholic Church. God has been very gentle bringing me back home. I think this is what God wants. So I need to end this now and start in a new place because we're entering a period here where there's not going to be any turning back. We aren't going to be able to fix this. And it's heartbreaking and it's sad, but this is when things will get real, folks. This is when persecution of people will start. And it doesn't matter if you hide who you are. It's not going to be just Catholics or just Christians. Mostly, yes. But it's going to be independent thinkers. It's going to be people that don't go along with the rhetoric, with the mainstream ideology. And that's not just Christians. It's just logical people who understand, wait a second, what are you doing to these children and their bodies? It's not enough that they're ending their lives in the womb, which again, I have experience with and I can speak from. It destroys the woman. It takes a lot. It takes a lot of effort to come back from that and to turn back to God and not be so ashamed. That's my problem. That's why I never turned back to God sooner, is because I was so ashamed of the things I'd done. I'm like, how could he want me? I'm filthy. I've done things that are reprehensible, but God is good. God is good. And too many people don't understand that. They're like, look at all this that happens. Why is your God allowing this, that, and the other? It's the wickedness in our own hearts that have brought us here. God's patience has allowed us a lot of time to turn around and to, turn this boat around, so to speak. But, we're at a point where there is not going to be any turning back. So the war is going to end, but if people do not cease offending God, and by offending God, that's offending life, offending love, ending the lives of children, and then transforming their bodies. No child talks like that. A child is like an empty cup. Whatever you pour into it is what molds that child for probably the first 6, 7, 8 years of their life until they come into that age of reason where they can start to discern a little bit things around them and what's going on. So these children that are, my child knew at 18 months that she was in the wrong body. That's not possible. That's not possible. These are parents who want their 15 minutes of fame, and they'll do whatever they have to get it, even ruin their own offspring. And it's disgusting, to be totally honest with you. Hang on, Sam, we'll go out in a little bit. We just went out a couple of minutes ago. So to prevent this, okay, hold on. A worse one will break out during the pontificate of Pius XI. When you see a night illuminated by an unknown light, know that this is the great sign given you by God. And that's also in Jonas, that he is about to punish the world for its crimes. Now, they were just talking about Arcturus, right? And there's that's part of a constellation. A great sign given you by God that he is about to punish the world for its crimes by means of war, famine, and persecutions of the church and of the Holy Father, meaning the Pope, who, again, I think they might have gotten rid of already because they're showing the same videos and pictures over again, and one, he's skinnier and looking haggard and unhealthy, and then the other one, it looks like it's a few years old. This is one of the reasons I learned Latin, is because I wanted to know what the Pope was actually saying, and I didn't want to hear it from somebody else quoting him, so to speak. So to prevent this, I shall come to ask for the consecration of Russia to my Immaculate Heart. If my requests are heeded, Russia will be converted, and there will be peace. If not, she will spread her errors throughout the world. Okay? So we have that. The third part of the secret revealed at the Cova de Iria Fatima on July 13th, 1917. I write in obedience to you, my God, who command me to do so through his excellency. And I know this is wordy and long, but I don't want to just start telling people certain things without without the proper documentation. Like, this is legit. This is, the legit prophecy. After 2 years, 2 parts, which I have already explained, at the left of Our Lady and a little above, we saw an angel with a flaming sword in his left hand. Flashing, it gave out flames that looked as though they would set the world on fire. But they died out in contact with the splendor that Our Lady radiated towards him from her right hand. Pointing to the earth with his right hand, the angel cried out in a loud voice, "Penance, penance, penance." And we saw in an immense light that is God, something similar to how people appear in a mirror when they pass in front of it, a bishop dressed in white. We had the impression that it was the Holy Father, the Pope. Other bishops, priests, men, and women religious going up a steep mountain, at the top of which there was a big cross of rough-hewn trunks as of a cork tree with the bark. Before reaching there, the Holy Father passed through a big city, half in ruins and half trembling with halting step. Afflicted with pain and sorrow, he prayed for the souls of the corpses he met on his way. Keep reading, please. Many people don't read on their own. Thank you, Michelle. I agree. People don't read anymore. And that's why they're in ignorance and darkness. So where was I? No, don't be sorry. It's okay. And thank you for, encouraging. So where was I? So he's walking, they're seeing him walk up this giant hill with other holy people. They're passing through a big city, half in ruins and half trembling with halting step. Afflicted with pain and sorrow, he prayed for the souls of the corpses he met on his way. Having reached the top of the mountain, on his knees at the foot of the big cross, he was killed by a group of soldiers who fired bullets and arrows at him, and in the same way there died one after another the other bishops, priests, men and women religious, and various lay people of different ranks and positions. Beneath the 2 arms of the cross there were 2 angels, each with a crystal, that one's got me, aspersorium in his hand, in which they gathered up the blood of the martyrs. And with it, that's like the thing that you see at the old traditional mass. They gathered up the blood of the martyrs, and with it sprinkled the souls that were making their way to God. So here's the interpretation of the secret letter of His Holiness Pope John Paul II to Sister Lucia. This is the original letter. You could see his signature down there from 2000, April 19th, 2000. Translation: in the great joy of Easter, I greet you with the words of the risen Jesus spoke to you, the disciples, peace be with you. I will be happy to be able to meet you on the long-awaited day of the beatification of Francisco and Jacinta, which, please God, I will celebrate on May 13th. Since on that day there will be time only for a brief greeting and not a conversation, I'm sending His Excellency Archbishop Tarcisio Bertone, Secretary of the Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith, to speak with you. This is the congregation which works most closely with the Pope in defending the true Catholic faith, and which, since 1957, as you know, has kept your handwritten letter containing the third part of the secret revealed on July 13th, 1917, at Cova de Iria Fatima. Archbishop Bertone, accompanied by the Bishop of Liria, His Excellency Bishop Sirfome de Sousa Ferreira e Silva, will come in my name to ask certain questions about the interpretation of the third part of the secret. Sister Maria Lucia, you may speak openly and candidly to Archbishop Bertone, who will report your answers to me. So he's writing to her so that she expects, this is how you... Again, people today don't want to do their due diligence, and they believe anything that's electronic, which can be changed. That's why there's pictures of the actual letters above. He's telling her to expect this archbishop on his behalf, because he's busy with Pope things that they do, this so that she knows that she can trust him and speak openly and candidly with him, and that he will come back to him and speak with him about the conversation. Okay, and then you always give a greeting in a church, an ecclesiastical letter, just like Paul did in the Bible. You always give a proper greeting, and you say hello and greetings and salutations in the body of Jesus Christ, however you would like to do that, and then you give a proper closing. And again, that's how she knows, again, that this is him writing it, that it's official. This is the conversation with Sister Maria Lucia of Jesus and the Immaculate Heart. So this tells about that meeting, okay? So Sister Lucia was lucid and at ease. She was happy because at this point she's very old. Sister Lucia was lucid and at ease. She was very happy that the Holy Father was going to Fatima for the beatification of Francisco and Jacinta, something she had looked forward to for a long time. The Bishop of Lira Fatima read the autograph letter of the Holy Father, which explained the reasons for the visit. Sister Lucia felt honored by this and reread the letter herself, contemplating it in her own hands. She said that she was prepared to answer all questions frankly. At this point, Archbishop Bertone presented 2 envelopes to her, the first containing the second, which held the third part of the secret of Fatima. Immediately touching it with her finger, she said, "This is my letter," and then, while reading it, "This is my writing." Again, this is how you know it's appropriate and proper, and she's verifying, this is what I wrote. The original text in Portuguese was read and interpreted with the help of the bishop. Sister Lucia agreed with the interpretation that the third part of the secret was a prophetic vision, similar to those in sacred history. She repeated her conviction that the vision of Fatima concerns, above all, the struggle of aesthetic communism against the church and against Christians, and describes the terrible sufferings of the victims of the faith in the 20th century. When asked, is the principal figure in the vision the Pope, Sister Lucia replied at once that it was. She recalled that the 3 children were very sad about the suffering of the Pope, and that Jacinta kept saying, "Quotidiano de Santo Padre, tano miuta pena dos pecadores." Poor Holy Father, I am very sad for sinners. Sister Lucia continued, "We did not know the name of the Pope. Our Lady did not tell us the name of the Pope. We did not know whether it was Benedict or Pius or Paul or John, Paul, but it was the Pope who was suffering, and that made us suffer too." As regards the passage about the bishop dressed in white, that it is the Holy Father, as the children immediately realized during the vision, who is struck dead and falls to the ground. Okay, so you will know that this prophecy is becoming fulfilled when the Pope is struck dead. But again, they're not going to want you to know when these things happen. I'm going to hold here because I got to tell you guys something. I don't know who remembers this, if anyone remembers this. There was a news blurb that came out that said the Pope had died. It was like 2018, 2019. And it was like a news break, and the woman like kind of stuttered on her words, and she said that the Pope was dead. And then immediately, almost like 10 minutes later maybe, they yanked it, and they apologized and said that that was incorrect. So we're dealing with a whole lot of subversion here and a lot of secrecy. And I would again go so far as to say, I did a video yesterday. I said I wouldn't do any more videos about TIs because the community can become toxic. But that's kind of part of the process. You become very suspicious of everybody around you when you know that you're being surveilled against your will. And this is going to become, I vaguely remember, Michelle says. Okay, good. I'm glad I'm not the only person who remembers these things. Makes me feel a little better. I believe that this is what they're talking about, the persecution of the saints and whatnot, how we're being watched and how we're being monitored, because you got to understand, this came out, a while ago now, this third part of the secret. So it's very possible they especially know to watch, people of faith. And they're talking about the FBI infiltrating the Catholic Church for traditional Catholics. Like, why? What does that have to do with anything? Well, here's the problem. Communists and Catholicism are natural enemies. Not because we hate people. We don't hate people, right? We love people. And that's the whole problem, is things get twisted. We hate communism. Everything that Catholicism stands for goes against socialism and communism. We believe in free will. We believe that God gave us free will as a gift. We believe in following God and not a government institution if it goes against the laws of God. Communism is all about, controlling the population through a variety of different means, which goes against the Catholic Church. So you see here, we're natural enemies. Not by choice, but by circumstance. I hope that makes sense. Okay. So before giving the sealed envelope containing the third part of the secret to the bishop, Sister Lucia wrote on the outside of the envelope that it could be opened only after 1960, either by the Patriarch of Lisbon or the Bishop of Leiria. Archbishop Bertone therefore asked why only after 1960. Was it Our Lady who fixed that date? Sister Lucia replied, it was not Our Lady. I fixed the date because I had the intuition that before 1960 it would not be understood, but that only later would it be understood. Now it can be better understood. I wrote down what I saw. However, it was not for me to interpret it, but for the Pope. You see, so she's very obedient to the church. She's very pious. Yeah, so I don't even want to get into, that part of things. Finally, mention was made of the unpublished manuscript which Sister Lucia has prepared as a reply to the many letters that come from the Mariam devotees and from the pilgrims. The work is called Os Apellos de Mensagem de Fatima, and it gathers together in the style of catechesis an exhortation, thoughts, and reflections which express Sister Lucia's feelings and her clear and unaffected spirituality. She was asked if she would be happy to have it published, and she replied, if the Holy Father agrees, then I am happy. Otherwise, I obey whatever the Holy Father decides. Sister Lucia wants to present the text for ecclesiastical approval, and she hopes that what she has written will help to guide men and women of good will along the path that leads to God, the final goal of every human longing. The conversation ends with an exchange of rosaries. Sister Lucia is given a rosary sent by the Holy Father. That's awesome. And she in turn offers a number of rosaries made by herself. The meeting concludes with the blessing imparted in the name of the Holy Father. Announcement made by Cardinal Angelo Sodano, Secretary of State. Now here's what's weird, because Michelle said she remembered as well seeing that, it was announced that the Pope died, but then that it was a mistake. It was an error. And this might not be for me to say, but because of everything that God, yes, it's God, has shown me, and now what Mother Mary has been revealing to me in my dreams, these beings, okay, they're really pushing people to do self-harm in many ways. And I said that it seemed like in 2018, something happened to change people, and that I believed it was some type of spiritual rapture. When described in the Catholic Bible, Mary was raptured into heaven. It meant that she passed on, but that her body and everything was taken up to heaven because she was consecrated to Christ. She was sinless, and she maintained, I don't know how it's possible, but she maintained her quote-unquote virginity, at least her spiritual virginity, all throughout her life. This gives me chills because this reminds me it is very possible that in this time, with demons running amok because mankind opened a whole lot of doors, and like I said yesterday, Hitler, their army, the Nazis, they were all about the occult. Tesla's bell, all that stuff. If you look into it, they opened a lot of doors. LaVey, all these people, okay? And with all the sacrifices that have been completed, I am really just wondering at this point if something other or something else took over the Pope. And that's why all of these, pushes for like the Mayan rites being added to the Mass and for the smudging that he's allowing to be done in the church, I don't have anything against other people's culture, but, we're supposed to be Catholic. Why are you bringing in, let those people have their own church, create their own church if they want to change it that much. Start your own religion. Why does it have to be brought into consecrated ground? That is my main problem with that. And I don't want to offend anybody because I know people that I love rely on smudging. They think it's a good thing. There is information out there that say these things get worse when you smudge a home. That's why I've never, it's not my culture. I wasn't raised doing it. I wasn't raised with Native American Indian ideology and theology and practice. So I don't know what I would be doing, right? If you don't know what you're doing, for me, common sense says I'm going to avoid it. So all these things make me wonder, like, what is going on with him? Did something else take over? And there's a lot of gaslighting happening on bigger Christian channels. And again, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. There was a video just yesterday talking about, well, demons don't actually possess somebody, and that's not possible, and that doesn't happen. Look, if you're a Christian and you've read even the most popular parts of what Christ said, he himself delivered Mary of Legion. She had 7 demons or something like that. Or, I'm sorry, he delivered her of 7 demons. And he delivered the deaf and dumb man, which that's what his father called him, and delivered him of Legion. And when he delivered him, the demons were like, why are you here to mess with us before our time? And, please do not send us, to Hades or whatever. So he puts them in a herd of pigs. And the pigs can follow right there, and they end up jumping off of a cliff and killing themselves. So talk about instant karma. That goes against what Christ himself has said and taught. I don't believe that a Christian or a Catholic, a true Catholic, someone who's baptized, can be possessed. But we can have them attached to us, and they can definitely follow us around like they do with me for some reason, which is, why I'm trying to get holier, meaning set apart, closer to God. Not perfection, because I'm not perfect, but I'm striving for certain things at this point because I do not consent to such a thing. And sadly, not everybody is being baptized properly. Not everybody has been baptized. And so these things have entrance into people who, and what if they have entrance into people who have passed on and suddenly they're up and walking around again? Well, how's that happening? It's strange right now what's happening. Okay, so sorry about that. Where are we at in time? Gracious. Sorry about that. Give it a thumbs up if you can, Michelle, just so it maybe gets a couple of views for people. Because people don't read and they need to know what's coming. Okay, so on this solemn, where was I? I bound the offer, beloved heartfelt wishes for his approaching 80th birthday. We present the heartfelt wishes of the whole church. On the solemn occasion of his visit to Fatima, His Holiness has directed me to make an announcement to you. As you know, the purpose of his visit to Fatima has been to beautify the 2 little shepherds. Right, I'm not Catholic, but put my son in Catholic education system. They taught indigenous teachings 10 years ago. It's strange. Yeah, it's happening all over New Zealand. It's really big there because, again, they worship pagan gods back in the day. That's what they did. These things have run amok. If you ask me, the gates of Hades have already been opened. Tom Hanks told us that at the Grammys that year when Charlize Theron freaked out and he said the gate is open, and I would agree. I've seen my loved ones. I did not have my children baptized because my husband did not want them to be baptized. He wanted them to make their own choice. And I totally regret it now. I bless my son's room. I pray on them all the time. I'm at a point where, I'm just begging Mother Mary to reach out to my children and bring them to Christ. Because the story of Mary goes that when you request a thing of her, she will never deny you. And so I am just saying my rosary and begging her to consecrate my children and bring them to Christ. And that might only happen through my story and whatever happens to me. And I know this, like I've known this for a long time. I've known this since I started doing this. I've said that over and over. I know how this is going to end for me. But through that, perhaps my children and other people maybe will seek Christ. Despite all that, my prayers and my rosaries every day are for a variety of different people. Sometimes it's for women who've committed abortion. Sometimes it's for the babies who've been aborted. Sometimes it's for America and all the nations. Sometimes it's for the infirm. But every day, just about every decade through the rosary, I dedicate it to a different person or a different group of people. And, I would hope my story would show people that they need to be brought to Christ and that they need to apologize. I mean, just try it. If you've never prayed, get down on your knees and pray and ask God, to reveal himself to you. And then if you've ever denigrated the Catholic Church or Mary, tell God you're sorry, tell Mary you're sorry, and watch what happens. Because do I face a lot of adversity? Sure I do. But I'm still here. I'm still in one piece. I still have my joy that cannot be taken from me because my joy is in Christ. And I still have hope. I still have hope for humanity. I realize the journey can get bumpy and rough, and that is not the final destination, though. And, I might not have always been as eloquent as I should. I might not have always been as reverent as I should. But I pray that through my testimony, somebody, even just one person, has been brought to the love of God. And that is my hope. And that is my main prayer, that people will look at the testimonies of people like me, and that it will bring them to their knees in prayer and repentance. Because there's nothing greater than the love of God. God created us out of love just because he wanted to share that love with others. So I think that things are going to be very good, but we got to get through the rough stuff first. The vision of Fatima concerns above all the war waged by ascetic system against the church and Christians, and it describes the immense suffering endured by the witnesses of the faith in the last century of the second millennium. It is an interminable way of the cross led by the popes of the 20th century. According to the interpretation, which also confirmed recently by Sister Lucia, the bishop clothed in white, who prays for all the faithful, is the Pope. I already read that. It must have flicked back up there. So that. Before attempting an interpretation, the main lines of which can be found in the statement read by Cardinal Sodano on May 3rd of this year at the end of the Mass. It's not this year. This is from early 2000s. Basic clarification, the way in which, according to phenomena such as Fatima, are to be understood within the life of faith. The teaching of the Church distinguishes between public and private revelations. The two realities differ not in degree, but also in essence. The term public revelation refers to the revealing action of God directed to humanity as a whole, and which finds its literary expression in the parts of the Bible, the Old and New Testaments. It is called revelation because in it God gradually made himself known to men, to the point of becoming man himself, in order to draw to himself the whole world and unite it with himself through his incarnate Son, Jesus Christ. It's not a matter, therefore, of intellectual communication, but of life-giving process in which God comes to meet man. Okay? So then it talks about personal revelation and how that should be attended to. I'm not going to go through this part right now. It's a lot about the catechism. If you're interested, again, I will include the link. My concern at this point is that you understand how to prepare. Now, allegedly, along with this period of chastisement, and I'm going to save this so I can open it and share it with you guys. You can read it at your leisure. Now, when the 3 days of darkness occur and when the moon turns to sackcloth, we are not to go outside. We are not to look out the windows. We are to keep everything shut tight and we're not to go see what's happening out there. There's a lot of fictional books too about what happens during this period. Allegedly, things will be out there that no man, should have to lay his eyes upon. And a lot of secular people do not know about this. They're not informed about this. Again, they don't care. They don't want to read the Bible. They are going to be caught unawares. We are in a time like no other on the face of the earth, especially in America, especially with the lockdowns and all these things happening and restrictions on travel. There has not been a time like this in recent history. Okay, maybe in World War II, but we have not seen the likes of it in our lifetime. People need to understand how to protect themselves. Get your relatives blessed beeswax candles and tell them, hey, I got you a candle, but only burn it if there's a blackout or if, there's a strange eclipse. You don't have to tell them everything. Try to get them to listen. But again, we cannot make people believe. So the 3 days of darkness is an eschatological prophecy of future events held by some Catholics to be true. The prophecy foretells 3 days and nights of an intense darkness over which the whole earth, against which the only light will come from blessed beeswax candles, and during which all the enemies of the church will perish. The prophecy parallels the 10 plagues against Egypt. The Apocalypse of John, which is also the book of Revelation, it was originally called the Apocalypse of John. It was the revealing of things to him. Also mentions a plague of unnatural darkness as an effect of the 6th seal and the 5th vial. However, the specifics of the 3 days of darkness prophecy are derived from private revelation. Okay, so this is two different things. The Fatima revelation is its own thing. However, they fall in line because of the timeline and the way the timeline works. If those things take place that are in her letters, the communism and the martyrs and all this, then of course, these things are going to happen because these seals will be opened. And I just did a video talking about how we're at the 5th seal at this point. But again, I've kind of been ahead of the world in that everything started being revealed to me in 2017, 2018, early 2019, and then it came to the world. That's kind of how prophecy works. It's revealed to somebody before it happens so we can give out a warning, and then, if the warning's not heeded, you can't say God has not been trying to warn people. I've been doing this for a while now, trying to bring people around and get them to understand at what a time we are living. So I believe we are at the time where martyrdom is going to begin again. I believe May 5th and 6th are big days for that. If they change the Catholic Mass, I will not attend anymore. I'm okay with that in my heart. Of course, if I can find an underground church or I can find an option, if there's a church near me, if that church I attended on Easter, if they don't fall in line with this, then I will attend. But it's not good to sit in a church with a bunch of other people and say amen, which means I agree, if there are things that you don't agree to that are happening. And I'm sorry, I'm not Mayan, and that rite is very specifically a human sacrificial ritual rite. So that should show you there's something very not normal happening. We are not in a time where any of this has occurred in our lifetime. And the demonic and the diabolical run amok. Just the fact of how much I get attacked on this little channel. People calling me a perp. And again, I don't want to say nothing about, I don't want to bring names into it, but a certain person making videos where, the house behind them is trashed and a hot mess, but they want to tell other people how they need to be living. And their eyes are not looking quite normal. And, there are things happening that we cannot deny at this point. And to deny it is folly. I mean, it's at your own peril. So there shall come over the whole earth an intense darkness lasting 3 days and 3 nights. Nothing can be seen, and the air will be laden with pestilence, which will claim mainly, but not only, the enemies of religion. It will be impossible to use any man-made lighting during this darkness except blessed candles. Now, I believe that the martyrdom type thing might happen before the 3 days of darkness. Now, they say the 3 days of darkness will herald this in. But if during this all the enemies of the church are killed, then there's not going to be anybody to create martyrs. Do you see what I'm saying? So this is Wikipedia. Take it with a grain of salt. There might be a few errors in it. But let's move forward because it's been a long time already. And there's stuff that we need to know, and I will show you the timeline in another video after this. I don't know if it'll be a live stream. I might just upload it, but I will show the timeline that they have put together in the catechism. So there shall come over the whole earth an intense darkness. Nothing can be seen. The air will be laden with pestilence, poison, okay? And you see everybody, I can't breathe, wearing the masks. There's something spiritual manifesting in the physical to warn everybody, even secular people, so they cannot say, I did not know. Because God is warning people, but if people aren't seeing it, then you know. But not only the enemies of religion. It will be impossible to use any man-made lighting during this darkness except blessed candles. He who out of curiosity opens his window to look out or leaves his home will fall dead on the spot. During these 3 days, people should remain in their homes, pray the rosary, and beg God for mercy. And yeah, I would say fast. Do not eat. Don't do anything other than pray. I'm not kidding. Like, I'm serious. And I'll probably do a shorter version video just reading this. So if you want to share it with other people, again, this channel is not about numbers. It's about reaching people, which I guess is kind of numbers, but I don't care about the numbers per se. It's about reaching the human beings, you know. So during these 3 days, people should remain in their homes, pray the rosary, and beg God for mercy. If you don't have a rosary, there are a lot of websites where you can get a blessed rosary. And if you need that, I might include that in the description as well. All the enemies of the church, whether known or unknown, will perish over the whole earth during that universal darkness, with the exception of a few whom God will soon convert. The air shall be infected by demons who will appear under all sorts of hideous forms. And again, I think we're already dealing with the precursor to these events, okay? So I said, as far as the timeline goes, the 3 days of darkness is also in the Bible. It talks about the sun becoming like sackcloth. I think a certain event will bring that on. It might be the first martyr. I don't know. But again, the timeline, God is outside of time. So our timeline is always a little different than God's. He does things on his own timeline. And I do believe sometimes we can get things reversed or mixed up as far as like chronological order. That's my personal opinion. It doesn't go against any teaching. It's just what you can see it happening. So Marie Julie Genet, known as the Breton stigmatist, she had the stigmata, expanded upon the story of the 3 days of darkness. According to Jaheni, it would occur on a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. All of hell would be let loose to strike at those outside their homes and those without a lit blessed candle of pure wax. These candles would miraculously stay aflame the entire period, but not light at all in the houses of the godless. That's a very extreme warning, okay? Crucifixion, darkness, plagues of Egypt, and rapture. So you might want to click on some of this and do some extra reading if this interests you. And I can... Let's see if we can do this. Catholic timeline. That's a PDF. Ascension Media, which I actually really like them with Father Mike Schmidt, but as I said, even they're getting a little... I don't know if the Holy See has information on the time. There it is. No, I wanted the timeline. Okay, I'm going to do that in a separate video. I will do the timeline because I just had it pulled up myself. I was reading it. But know that we are entering a period of chastisement. If you have anything that you need to do, I would tend to it. And it's not like, you know, your friends are going to point and laugh at you if you start praying in your home alone. Pray if you've never prayed. Please try. Okay? If you're not baptized, go to your, ow, my first live here. Hello. If you're not baptized, seek out a priest to baptize you. Please get baptized, okay? You don't want just anyone or like these evangelists. You don't know who they are. You don't know what they're actually doing with their lives. And not that you know with priests, but priests are anointed. They are, I believe, of the first church. And again, history proves this. All you got to do is a little digging and you can find, you can see that for yourself. But, for people who aren't heeding these warnings that myself and a lot of others are putting out, and I've been doing this for 3.5 years, steady, every day almost. I warned of a lot of things that were coming from God's messages, and a lot of them have happened or are happening. And again, it's not about glorifying myself. It's about getting people back to God, right? Especially our children. There are so many children here. I told my son, I said, you need to get baptized. I said, I'm sorry I didn't do it. Your father didn't want it done. We wanted you to decide for yourself if you wanted to be religious, but I should have just had him baptized anyway. I allowed myself to be totally manipulated. Please do not fall into the same traps that I fell into, because it's very hard to get things corrected, because you have to truly be penitent and you have to be praying. And prayer takes just a few minutes. You don't have to take forever. I'm going to run now, but I'm going to do shorter videos. That way they can be shared if you feel like sharing them, or you just want to know the timeline of events. I love you guys. Thank you for being here. I pray that you are blessed. And if you're not baptized, get baptized. If you're not seeking God, seek God while he may be found. And if you've renounced or begrudged the Catholic Church, you should apologize. And you should apologize to Mary. And I'm not even kidding. Almost immediately, you will see things happen. Because a lot of Protestants say, well, we crushed the head of Satan. That's Mary that did that. That's Mary they were talking about in that verse. Because she gave birth to Christ. That he would bruise her heel, and she would bruise his head. Crush his head. That is only Mary that they're talking about. So if you were like me and you maybe said something against that or against her, I would urge you to apologize. I love you guys. Stay blessed. We will talk soon, and I will upload a timeline of events. Yes, and welcome. I'm sorry it's over now, but I upload almost every day, and I'm gonna upload a shorter version of this so that people can see it.